New stunts, same cunts. This is...
Oh my goodness. Wow.
I don't feel good about that. My name is Pappy. I'm recording from Louisville, Colorado, and your host for the Fast and Furious episode. Just Fast and Furious, not the Fast and the Furious.
Different thing.
So let's let the other hosts introduce themselves. Josh, I won the privilege of hosting from you off the Forrest Gump episode last time. Why don't you tell us where you're recording from and how was the Sundance Film Festival? Josh, Spoilers is at Sundance this year.
Spoilers at Sundance. I really hope that we'll be able to spoil some of the movies I saw in the upcoming year. But we'll see. A lot of them, their distribution is unknown at this point. So,
and it's very likely, too, the movie might change. You know what I mean? Like the cut of Apocalypse Now that was played was different than the one that ended up being in theaters. So you may have seen a movie that no one else will ever see.
Possibly, Pat, but I'll say, like, I could tell one needed some more sound work. So, like, I'm not really proud and grateful that I got to see, like, I got to hear the worst audio, but that's not too special for me. But there's this movie called Minari, and it's an A24 flick. Brad Pitt isn't in it, but he's, like, attached to the film. And it's excellent. It's a real simple concept of a Korean family trying to make a farm in Arkansas. So, I also wanted to point out, Pat, great spoiler at the top. I regret nothing.
You gave me the spoiler earlier today, and my reaction was Jesus fucking Christ, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. But we should definitely probably beep that out. Things get played incidentally. But Stevie, you're the next most recent host on Predestination. My question for you, obviously, tell us where you're recording from, but what's the most fast or the most furious thing that you've ever done?
Ooh.
Could be both, but, either one.
Man, oh man. Hello, this is Stevie recording from Elkhart, Indiana. Most fast or furious thing I've ever done. Let's see here. Most fast and furious thing I've ever done.
So your biggest regret?
My answers to those two things are the same.
I jumped from a pretty high cliff rock in Hawaii that I won't say how high, but looking back on it now, it was incredibly dangerous for me to do. So it would be that.
How old were you at the time?
I was 13 years old.
It's pretty bold.
Looking back on it, I was a pretty dumb kid, not gonna lie.
Well, speaking of dumb, we have our next host of the Big Dumb Movie Podcast, Korey.
Chuck Freebie,
You've yet to host an episode of Spoilers, but you're working your way towards the schneid as you get some episodes under your belt. I guess, could you tell us, just how are things going over at Big Dumb Movie? It sounds like you guys have had some cool episodes lately. Maybe with even some Spoilermen?
Yeah, Brett was on our most recent episode, which is on the all-female Ghostbusters movie. That was a really good one. Brett, you listened to it yet?
Yes, I have.
Oh, you like it?
Yes, I did.
But,
I mean, I don't know anything about movies, so I wouldn't really ask me.
Yeah, how many have you even seen, No, but...
Not enough.
Big Dumb Movie's been going good. I've been having a lot of, guests on. It's pretty much now just me and whoever wants to come on, so it's me and a bunch of different guests, and it's kind of a different feel every episode, and it's been a lot of fun, actually. I'm happy with the way it's going over there.
Well, that's my favorite movie podcast. If you like spoilers, you definitely like Big Dumb Movie. Subscribe to both of us. Give us both 5-star ratings. But you mentioned, Brett, you were working your way towards this night, second to last. You last hosted on Turner and Hooch. Brett, tell us where you're recording from. And I asked you if you would be free this Sunday to record the Oscar Music Pod, and you told me, that's Super Bowl Sunday.
No, I just said
no.
on Super Bowl Sunday, question mark?
But let's tell us where you're recording from. Let's get it on the record. Give us a winner of the Super Bowl and a score. Recording this the Thursday before the Super Bowl, Thursday, January 30th.
Okay, this is Brett from Fort Wayne, and I am going to say Kansas City 28, San Francisco 24.
You heard it here, folks. Bet your house, Kansas City. And then last but not least, Mikey.
Don't bet your house.
You last hosted on First Blood, the Rambo movie. You clearly love these Fast and Furious movies. I picked this.
Love is such a strange word to use.
Do you have a crazy car story? Tell us where you're recording from, and then do you any crazy car stories? Anything? Any like near misses in a car, bad accident, killed a guy in a DUI, something cool.
No.
Jeez.
Well, no. I've definitely had some close calls. I mean, I remember one time just in the high school parking lot, or not in the high school, leaving from high school, just you know that new exit that they made while we were in high school that leaves past the football fields, and it was just icy, I think, or something, and there was traffic coming the other way, and I kind of just hit the ice and did a complete 180 and ended up in the other lane, right in front of the car coming the other way, and I guess it was just like, wow, I guess I got to go the other way now, so I just drove the other way. I had nowhere else to
You
go.
didn't burn rubber and go backwards like they would in Fast and Furious?
No. I don't know. I try to be a safe driver. Cars terrify me, so it's fun to watch car stunts, not be in car stunts.
The practical
Cars
guy.
terrify you. The Fast and Furious movies terrify me. It's been a year since we did one of these movies. I kind of had a meltdown the last time we did one, so this is another mea culpa for that. But Korey, if it's been a year and it was 8 years from the time this movie was made from the original The Fast and the Furious, could you bring us up to speed on the franchise? Like, what's happened so far, and then the timelines are all confused. Can you set us straight there?
Absolutely. Pappy, cue the music.
My life be like, ooh, yeah. My life be like, ooh, yeah.
To understand The Fast and the Furious, you have to go back to the year 1999. Now, some people think it's a 2001 movie, but it's not. It's 1999, I assure you. So what's this about?
Tell us.
I'll tell you what it's about. It's about race wars. And Hector is going to be running 3 Honda Civics with spoon engines. And on top of that, he just came into Harry's and he ordered 3 T66 turbos with NOS and a Motec system exhaust.
Oh, God.
So check it out. It's like this. Brian O'Connor is an undercover cop who eats tuna with no crust
Of course.
and has to infiltrate the underground street racing world of LA. Someone has been stealing all-in-one TV, VCR, and DVD combo players from trucks. And this buster is going to find out who.
Buster.
That's my dad.
Brian races for Pinks and gets involved with local street racer Dom Toretto, who runs a team.
He never had his car.
And if you can't find the right tool in his garage, Mr. Arizona, you don't belong near a car. You see, Dom lives his life a quarter mile at a time. And for those 10 seconds or less, he's free. And you could ask any racer, any real racer. It doesn't matter if you win by an inch or by a mile. Winning's winning. As the weeks go on, they share some Coronas and they have some barbecues. And Brian is slowly accepted into the team. When he eventually finds out Dom is the one behind the truck robberies, he goes to take him in. But in the end, instead of stopping him, he lets him go because he's learned there's something more important than the law. Family.
Family.
Having your car.
So, Pappy, is that kind of what you were looking for?
That was absolutely
Now do
perfect.
Too Fast, Too Furious.
That one's a lot shorter.
What music were you requesting in the back other than ba with the ba da bang da bang diggy diggy?
Oh, that was it. I mean, it's still playing, right?
Exactly what he wanted. Yeah.
Well, Too Fast and Too Furious. This movie is as meaningless as it is unwatchable.
It's so bad.
So I have a one-sentence breakdown. Brian is on the run, and he helps the FBI take down a drug lord to clear his record. Oh, you know what? One more thing. Ejectocito.
We hungry.
Tokyo Drift, it doesn't need to really be taken into consideration to catch us up because it's technically between 6 and 7.
Not confusing at all.
It takes place in the year 2014, even though it was released in the year 2006.
I think we mentioned on that podcast a lack of continuity with the technology didn't seem to line up, but
flip phones.
that
Flip
was
phones.
excellent. That was more than I could have could have hoped for. And you mentioned Tokyo Drift. Stevie, we have Han here in the opening set piece, which you texted me off the bat.
I was so confused.
I never know which way you're going to go with these, but could you tell us a little bit about what happens in this opening set piece? You seem to be a fan.
Dude, big fan of this opening scene. Besides the dialogue, and like the dialogue is never any good in these movies. They're just really not. But the action sequence of, Dom and Letty and Han taking down this, giant, what is it, a gas tanker?
In the Dominican Republic, I think? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
quadruple
quadruple gas tanker in the Dominican Republic. And what I hated so much about the original The Fast and the Furious was like when they would like go really fast and like the camera would like move CGI through the car and it would show like a lot of cheesiness through like the engine and stuff like that. I just like the way Justin Lin cut this opening sequence. It was really fast. It was really fluid.
Really
and
furious.
I felt like it was very furious, Brett. Extremely furious. And I felt like, I don't know, like the car camera work was really neat in this scene, and it was a good like 10-minute opening scene. I loved it. It was like watching Mad Max, but before that.
It's like almost in a movie, you're cool with an amount of action with no substance about it.
Yes.
Up to a point. In an intro, it can sustain itself pretty well.
You got to be honest, guys. It started off pretty strong, the way Indiana Jones does.
Or Drive, or all those other movies we always mention. Mikey, did you like the iguana? I really like the iguana.
Oh, the pet iguana? The trucker's iguana? Yeah, I think both him and the trucker are dead now after jumping from that truck at 50 miles an hour.
Dude, they lived!
Protect the iguana.
Squished by that 200-pound trucker.
I think he's alive, but he'll be dead in a few days when he can't get anywhere.
Are you sure that's not a dragon?
No, it's an iguana.
Dragons aren't real.
Look like a dragon to me, bro.
They make a point of saying that gasoline is like gold in this country, and this trucker is driving with 4 tanks and no security.
Are we sure it's gas?
Where else would it be?
'Cause if it was oil, it'd be a lot more like a petroleum.
Pure, no, it's NOS. It's NOS.
Oh, it's NOS?
Pure NOS.
Well, then that's like millions.
My God.
You didn't let me finish.
Uncut, pure NOS.
It's NOS the energy drink, which does make a couple of appearances in this film. Now exists in the world by Fast and Furious 4.
We talked about that. NOS came about because of the mentioning in the earlier franchises, right? This is like some fourth wall breaking, surrealistic David Lynch stuff, right? This is really next level.
You guys ever had
Yeah,
NOS?
David Lynch.
The energy drink?
I have had a NOS energy drink.
It hurts my stomach, man.
There's a lot of caffeine, but it seems like Dom is like at least robbing this gas to pay the poor, and I guess there's some kind of like prequel short that he directed that's terrible. That's not going to be in the scope of this podcast, but that's what's been up with Groot. Mikey, what's been up with Paul Walker since we last saw him in Miami?
Paul Walker has rejoined the FBI because I guess they're low on recruits, so they took back a felon in Paul Walker, and he ends up going through another classic street chase, very reminiscent of Point Break.
Not as good.
Yeah, not nearly as good, though. And then he ends up catching this guy, and he's just, he just wants a name from him, and he gives him a name of, like, something Park. A Korean guy.
David.
Who's got something to do with a car. After
a shocking fall out of a 3-story window onto a car. But he gets the name David Park. And that's kind of what Brian's been up to. But Brett, the story really gets kicked into motion here when Dom receives devastating news from his sister Mia, who we've already met. What is that news?
He gets news that Letty, his girlfriend or wife or life partner, has died.
Murdered,
yes.
Family.
So,
This is spoilers, though. Korey, she's not dead, right? Really?
Look, I don't want to ruin things for you guys. Maybe
We're
she
called
lived.
spoilers.
Maybe they.
Ruin
I started laughing. I go, she's not dead. She's in every movie.
It's a clone. Okay, it's a
Oh,
clone.
man. If it gets that ridiculous, I will probably like it more.
She's an android.
I hate Michelle Rodriguez, by the way, but whatever.
Why, is she a journalist
person?
or what?
She's a woman.
I hate more people than just journalists, Josh.
It's a big
Brett-
piece of the pie.
But Brett, even like knowing what we know now in the future that she shows up in later movies, did you even buy like for a second that she was dead? Like in
No.
the context of the film?
Oh, well, I don't want to get too far ahead, but I kept waiting
Go
for her.
for it.
I kept waiting for her to be like, they kidnapped her and act like she was dead to get Dom in, but halfway through the movie I started realizing they don't really know who Dom is. It's not like connected to anything, so I was like, oh man, what's going on? And then when she never showed up, I was like, how are they going to do this? So I don't know. I guess we'll have to find out in the next one we do.
Was she not available for filming?
That's a good question.
No idea.
Corey, no?
Was Lost going on right now? She was in Lost?
No. Lost was,
This
yeah, but
was
she was only in
2009.
one season.
Yeah, because she got kicked off of that because she was drunk driving.
Crazy.
Right?
Her and the blonde, both went kind of nuts.
They were too fast and furious on
Oh,
Lost.
big time.
Maybe the movie Avatar. Got
Oh,
in the way with
yeah,
her
she was
scheduling,
doing
I don't know.
Avatar, yeah.
That would make a lot of sense. But Josh, Dominic needs to investigate her death. Were you inspired by the detective work that he's able to do at the crash site?
You can tell. You can tell Jeremy Lin. You can tell that Justin Lin watched a lot of Columbo growing up. Maybe even Vin Diesel too. But he somehow, Pat, finds some powder on the ground. And I'm not a car guy, and it comes into play several times, so maybe someone else can speak to it. But there's a difference between NOS and like some
Nitromethane.
other
Nitro
type of
meth.
NOS.
Nitromethane.
One of them makes you a bitch if you use it, apparently. So
Oh, that's
Super
What's
nice.
the best line?
Code.
Only a pussy uses nitromethane.
I said only pussies run nitro meth.
I like how he turns into like Batman, the world's greatest detective. For
Oh, I
these
know, it's so good.
5 minutes.
He's literally seeing the cars like Willem Dafoe and Boondock Saints, like recreating a crime scene. Like he's just,
he's a polymath.
yeah, I guess. And Korey, I don't like this movie very much. I think other people are gonna be more positive as this. I'm gonna try and not shit on it. But Korey, you mentioned David Park, or you brought up David Park a second ago. How is he connected to this story? Because I'm with you guys. I thought that the opening set piece was really strong. I think the middle of this movie is convoluted and sucks, and I kind of think the ending has some cool moments. But David Park's kind of a linchpin to this early mystery, right, Korey?
Yeah, but look, man, it doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, it's just
No.
he's just the guy that gets him to the next place, which is the race. And you'll find a lot of like David Park, like people or things in the Fast and Furious franchise moving after this movie. So it's just one of those Fast and Furious things. It's like, okay, he's just the guy that gets him to a new place.
And David Park's the guy in the apartment, right? Who Vin...
Yes.
And this is kind of like the way Vin Diesel finds out where he is. This is where the franchise is starting. And Korey, I'll go back to you since you're more versed in this than we are. It feels like the franchise is starting to turn the corner away from any sense of realism at all, because Don gets that information by catching a fucking 2,000-pound engine or whatever it like out of the air. Like spent like is
One
this,
He had a cherry picker on it.
do you
man.
see this as kind of like a transitional movie in the franchise?
Oh, absolutely. That's the best way to describe it, because they get more crazy after this movie. Like, more insane shit happens in the other movies than this one. But this is like the transition movie between 1 and then 5 and the ones after 5. Like, this is really like a setup movie in a lot of
Yes,
ways.
exactly.
I think.
I like this point because I think we can all agree that up until now, Fast and Furious movies 1 through 3 were very grounded in realistic physics. Now
Yes.
we are taking the turn into unrealistic physics, and now it gets goofy.
Yeah, I've literally seen him drive off a cliff, so...
I think this story has a lot of realism to it, though.
But like Korey said, this really is like a setup movie because in 5 we get The Rock, and then it really gets Like, cars are flying and stuff.
By 7, it's just fucking madness. Like, it's absolute madness.
Which one's Charlie's?
The fate of the 8.
I have a question, Pappy.
Yeah, Brett. Yes.
Who would win in a race? The people at Dale Earnhardt's funeral or the people at Letty's funeral? Did you see all those cars?
And the best part is like we see a shot of like them getting in those cars, and a lot of them have like the racing seatbelts. So you got to imagine they're at this like serious funeral, and they double strap themselves in like over their shoulders to like get in the car while they're grieving.
If you're going to show up to that car at my funeral, don't bother showing up. It's going to make an annoying noise in and out of the funeral.
Hey, turn it down. I'm trying to die here.
Seriously, though, how bad are the FBI in this movie? Like, they never once were even close.
It's
to
genius
catching
writing,
Dom.
though, Brett. Shea Wiggum, the guy who plays the guy that hates Paul Walker, you think he's dirty the whole movie, and then you realize he's just a bad detective.
Yeah.
I loved that.
Dude, when he beats him up, that is crazy. That's
I was
pretty cool.
waiting for him to step out of one of those cars the entire time, being like, I was under your nose the whole time. No,
Yeah,
he's
he's
just
kinda
a
useless.
really,
He was just
he's
there to be a
really
dick.
bad detective.
Paul Walker beats his ass, and that dude looks fucked up the whole movie. Paul Walker gets his ass kicked, and it's gone immediately.
That Paul Walker assault is especially egregious because it's in the middle of an FBI office, and it's way beyond what was warranted. He just walks up to him and he slams his face into a limestone wall.
Yeah, he could have killed that guy.
His boss is like, hey, this ain't the Cub Scouts.
Stasiak, go get yourself cleaned up.
What? He hit me first.
This isn't the Cub Scouts. Now go on. You're bleeding on my floor.
The guy did come up on him, though. You don't do that to Paul Walker.
Stevie, it feels good, right, to be talking about Paul Walker and Vin Diesel in a movie again. I made a joke at the top that same stunts, same cunts, but the tagline to this movie was literally like, same car, new parts, or something like that.
Oh my god, was it really?
I'll double check that. But Stevie, did it feel good for you to have Brian and Dob together again? Did you actually feel something?
Yes. Because I thought they had good chemistry in the first one. And then 2 and 3, nobody had chemistry with anybody.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest. Oh, sorry, Stevie. I was just gonna say, I feel like this is the real number 2, Fast and Furious.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. And like, there's still kind of that, like, I don't know, I would say, like, I don't trust you kind of hatred between, like, Dom and Paul Walker, but just, like, seeing the movie again did feel good. I'll say that. It was cool to watch him on screen. And the word Buster being used again. I loved it.
The Buster kept me out of handcuffs.
Well, we talked about it on 2, I think, where it's like, that feels like the worst parts of all of the Fast and the Furious movies, like mashed together. But Josh, you were the host on that. I think that the race through Koreatown with the crazy GPSs and everything is kind of like the best parts of the Fast and Furious movies. Were you still with the movie at this point, Josh?
Well, I was kind of mind blown by you guys putting this as a transition movie, because I think nothing makes greater film than being half-assed, 1 foot in, 1 foot out of what you're trying to do. That really made a lot of things click for me. Yeah, man, I think this movie is at best when it's going all out one or the other. So it's kind of cool when they're doing Mario Kart through a tunnel and it makes no sense and people should be dying everywhere and it's great to see. But at the same time, like, intellectually after the movie, you just don't really have much to think about.
It's nice.
It's fun. I'm a business analyst, so it's fun to kind of think about some of the technology in this movie. And I like to think that, like, when Beretta, or what's his name? The mysterious bad guy? He's Campos, but Braga came to somebody with the requirements for his GPS. He's like, yeah, I need to be able to turn it off and on. And he just set a secret destination with a specific route. And oh yeah, there's some sexy ladies at the top too. That's like one of the main things they need for this GPS. But
speaking of that, Pappy, please tell me you're tossing a Gal Gadot scene to Mikey. Can we talk about her yet?
That's how you say her last name is Gadot?
I think it's Gadot.
I think it's Gadot, yeah.
Okay.
That's the most Israeli Hispanic woman I've ever heard in my life.
Did Steve Buscemi just call me out for that one?
Oh, for sure, dude. I never heard her called Gal Gadot. I was confused. My bad.
I mean, she wasn't. If she's
lady.
Wonder Woman now, she's basically an A-list star. But Brett, how did you feel about her in this movie? You said the accent was a little shaky.
I'm just surprised they tried to make her Hispanic. I thought she just was herself, and then I don't know. This is her first. This is her big screen debut, I believe, and she looked very young. And she's very skinny.
I forgot she was in this one. I thought she started in 5. So
Yeah, I did too, man.
I thought she was okay. I thought she was pretty cool in this movie.
Something interests you about this car?
Just admiring the bodywork.
Are you one of those boys who prefers cars to women?
I'm one of those boys that appreciates a fine body regardless of the make.
We've done a couple of her movies. We did Justice League and we did Wonder Woman. And I was struck by, because I had seen those first. I had never seen this before. She is so much more ripped nowadays. Like her arms are huge. Like she just looks more like a model as opposed to a superhero. But Korey, we mentioned Gal Gadot, and this is, I know you said it doesn't matter, but like you're the keeper of the keys, so to speak, for this franchise.
You're the Hagrid.
All I know, Brian doesn't win the race in Koreatown. Dom does, but somehow by illegally framing a man with a bag of heroin, he is moved on to the race in Mexico. Meth? Korey, what the fuck is happening here? I'm so confused.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things right after the race is the guy that gets framed. Brian drives by him kind of sad, and the guy Dwight yells, "Yo, nutsack! Muscle beats import every time."
Yo, nutsack! Let me tell you something, man. Muscle beats import every time. You know what I'm saying? Every time. Ladies, let's get on.
So I was so stunned by that line that I forgot about all sense of plot. But let me try to reel it in here. So Brian frames him, so that guy's unavailable. So I guess they get the person who got second in the big race, which was Brian. At least we know Dom couldn't beat him straight up, right?
Korey, to me, Brian never recovered from this. What he does here is so shitty. He's never the good guy in my eye.
But isn't that didn't the FBI decide to back him on this? Like they were going to end up letting him go. Like they'd be lucky not to get sued, but it was just so he can get in and get this guy.
Dude, he's going in with guns blazing into this dude's house. That is messed up.
During his Quentin Tarantino foot shit that he's got going on, sucking on toes.
I disagree with you, Josh, but I get your point.
I disagree too.
What? You think that guy deserved guns pointed at his head so he can get a spot in a race?
Alone?
He's a criminal.
Dude.
Okay.
He's a criminal.
Mr. Tough Guy.
Brian would never be in this position if Dom didn't cheat to win.
Yeah.
He disrespected the race.
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
And then that dude disrespected Brian, man. Why are you understanding
He
about
called him
this?
nutsack, Josh.
Called him
Josh, do you
nutsack.
even have family in your heart, bro?
For real, dude. Family.
First of all, it's football, food, friends, family, and faith.
in that order.
And furious.
Well, Josh, you're clearly the biggest detractor of this movie. We're in Mexico. What did you... There's a race through a tunnel, which I'll throw in my 2 cents first, but I'm curious to hear what you think. I think the reason that I like the race in Koreatown in the opening set pieces, we get to see the cars being cars.
Yes.
We've talked about Midnight Club and GTA. Josh, when they're in the tunnels, apparently running drugs, it's kind of hard to follow. Don't you agree?
Basically, it comes down to this, I believe. You have to hit the mountain with the tunnel under it right when the helicopter comes so that the helicopter will give up because it doesn't see anything, and then you pop out of the mountain and cross the border.
Classic video game.
They take advantage of the blind spots of the camera, then of the helicopter, and then of a ground crew or something. But
and this is my girl Gal Gadot.
Gay dot.
Godot, bro.
This is
Godot.
This is her at work, I think. Here, she seems like kind of the mastermind of the technology a little bit. Did you catch that at all, Pap?
There's that scene where after Vin Diesel wears the Koreatown race, she asks for his driver's license. He's like, "What driver's license?" And so she takes his fingerprint. She definitely kind of seems to be like the technology arm of this criminal enterprise. And speaking of Gal Gadot, did you buy the scene where Vin Diesel rejects her advances? Josh?
No.
80% devil, 20% angel.
I would definitely like it the other way, by the way. But
that's what's so brilliant about how good looking she is that he's like going through some serious grief, but still as an audience member, you're like, still like, dude,
come on, man.
I forgot Michelle Rodriguez existed.
We want to see this.
She may be good looking, but Vin Diesel's like a whole nother level of good looking.
No.
What?
No.
He looks like a potato.
Yeah, he does.
He looks like a thumb.
The thumb is a good one, yeah.
He looks like the bad guy from Sin City, the yellow guy.
The yellow bastard.
What Vin Diesel can do, though, is he can get shot and not fucking react a centimeter. That is one of the most insane parts of this whole movie. He gets shot in the back and just turns around slowly, like, what?
That's not necessarily unrealistic with adrenaline.
I'll give you that.
When your body is just coursing with so much fast and furious, you're just always on
got
high
so
alert.
much nos in his body, he can't even feel anything. All right, the movie slows down here for a while. We have about 40 minutes of movie left. I'm going to breeze over a bunch. If there's anything that you guys want to talk about, let me know. But they hide the heroin that was shipped in from Mexico. They drink Coronas with Mia, Brian, and Dom. We found out why Brian let Dom go in the first Fast and Furious movie that Korey alluded to. And Dom finds out that Letty was working for Brian and beats the absolute ever-loving shit out of him, like Korey talked about earlier.
She did it for you, Dom!
I don't know, anything from those parts that stood out to you guys? Anything significant from when the movie takes a beat?
Corey, is a lot of the movies from here on out about clearing names?
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. And then it's like...
Like, that's a big part of this franchise is clearing names.
I have a question for the people who watch Too Fast, Too Furious. I know it's terrible, but they, at the beginning of this movie, they say, "Why did we reinstate you?" What happens at the end of Too Fast, Too Furious?
He brings down the drug lord.
But why would he? It makes more sense for them to reinstate him after the first one when he let Dom go. But what happened in the second one?
If I remember correctly, Josh, you were the host for that, but he's kind of pressed into taking down the drug lord, and at the end, he and Tyrese steal some money to open up a business or something, right?
Dude,
like
he took the third exit. Come on, bro.
Right.
How could you forget that, Pappy?
That explains it.
Did that small business venture fail with Tyrese? Well, what happened?
When does he come back in these movies?
I think 5.
He comes back in the next one, I'm pretty sure. I bet Paul Walker was just trying to get rid of that fucking guy. Tyrese is like my least favorite character in the whole franchise.
Yeah, a 5 is like everybody is back in.
Can you guys tell me if there's any veracity to that whole... I think it's kind of like a wives' tale, but it's like if The Rock and Vin Diesel are fighting in the movie, they have to have the exact amount of hits or whatever?
That's real.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
They also,
But
one movie
Paul
didn't record scenes together, right? Because they hate each other so much?
That's 8, yes. That's correct.
Anyway, but so Paul Walker clearly doesn't have that same deal because he just gets railed by Vin Diesel.
It's a pretty nice armbar, though, but he got rampaged with the power bomb.
He gets Hulk smashed.
Okay, so I get 2 blocks, and he gets to kick my ass.
He gets shot and doesn't react. That's in his contract.
So the reason it really happened is when egos between Vin Diesel and The Rock were clashing. So that's when that clause happened, and that starts in the next movie.
Yeah, well, Vin beats him up in one movie. That could not have made Rock happy.
Well, in the next movie, they beat each other up pretty equal.
Okay, well, I guess we'll find out.
Josh, you mock it, but like, obviously they're multimillionaires, but they have a brand to kind of maintain, right?
Yeah.
And these movies are playing to the lowest common denominator possible, like
us,
me.
Yeah, to see someone get the shit kicked out of them, that could literally hurt their brand. I mean, I know it's an easy thing to mock. You have to get the same number of hits, but I kind of get it. Are you anti it, Josh, or you sound pretty angry about it?
I didn't mean to sound angry about it. I think it
I mean,
sounds
just like
hilarious.
condescending. Condescending may be a better word, but
It's hilarious, and I think to point it out, and it's like, yeah, I mean, if you're a successful actor and you already have money in the bank, you're a Joaquin Phoenix, what? You're just taking roles for money at this point, and you don't really care about the art. Clearly, if your priority is to make sure you have the same amount of punches as the other guy, I mean, aren't there there's like more nuance in film than that. And that's what bothers me about it.
That's kind of like in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, they bring like a former tough guy in to lose in all these new shows, which establishes the new guy. I don't know if anyone's seen that.
Did a podcast on it.
You have to keep in mind that in these earlier movies with Vin Diesel without The Rock, Dom is the Christ-like character. They even dress him up in white throughout most of this movie.
Yes, Mikey.
Which makes absolutely no sense.
He's got that crucifix, too.
And he has superpowers regarding everything automobile related. And he's like untouchable. Of course he's going to beat the shit out of everybody in these earlier movies.
He literally sacrifices himself at the end of the film. But, I mean... Yeah, Josh, you made a good point that these movies are all kind of about money. I don't think there's a lot of filmmaking going into it, but someone else who's all about money is Braga, and he wants his heroin back. Stevie, there's a fake Braga. Can you reconcile what happens here when the FBI is trying to bust him?
No, not really, Pap. I'm all sorts of confused.
What do you remember?
Because you'd think this guy who is clearly Braga is like... So, you think this guy's name's Campos is actually Braga. This dude's like in the public and around a lot of people. You think at some point in this damn movie, somebody'd be like, hey, yo, Braga, and he'd shoot him a look. Like, you think at some point it'd be like, hey, his name is actually Braga. But why did they bring in that guy with the suit?
Isn't that the most interesting man in the world?
No.
This is a Corona movie.
He's the least interesting man in the world.
But the one thing I hated was like that dude out in the suit is like walking into the parking lot, and then Brian's partner's printing off the fingerprints they got off that glass to like match like the DNA and like show who it is. And it's going so slow, and I was still waiting for Shea Wiggum to pop out of a car. But it just turns out he's the worst detective in the world.
You thought he was Braga. I didn't even think about that. I just thought he was a dick.
But yeah, and then at the last second, they're like, "Oh my god!" And then they realize
it's
that
men, they're pig.
Yeah.
Wait, why did they realize? Can we skip to that?
I have no idea.
They're printing off DNA, man.
Yeah,
but they did. But Paul Walker and Vin Diesel don't have access to that information.
Yeah.
That's the lady back at the FBI headquarters. All of a sudden, like, that ain't Braga, and they hit the deck.
Well, they thought it was him because he was like nervous and he did not seem like a kingpin, you know.
That was Paul Walker's intuition, his cop intuition.
You thinking what I'm thinking? Call. That ain't Braga.
You're thinking what I'm thinking, right?
He ain't Braga.
Oh, shit.
Maybe Paul Walker should have a clause in his contract for how many times he gets to have smart intuition. Like
he's dead,
movie.
Josh. Brains over brawn, yeah.
Well, in the scuffle that surrounds Campos being Braga, Vin Diesel saves Wonder Woman's life, and Brett, she repays him by telling him the location of Braga. We're in Mexico now. Could you kind of set us up with like everything that happens up until, you know, kind of when Vin goes to trial? How does Braga go down? What happens in the last sort of chase scenes here?
Okay, so they're in Mexico, which I believe is the fourth country we're in this movie. And
fantastic.
So he's in church. He's bribing he's giving the priest some money and to absolve him. And then his security guards, who are the worst ever, who don't cover every entrance or exit. Dom and Brian come in, and Brian's kind of gonna let Dom kill him, but Dom for some reason just changes and's like, "We're gonna take you back." So they kidnap him, and then they're driving, and then all the hounds come and they chase him, and finally someone's like, "Stop shooting at the car," because they're like They're spraying Uzis at their boss. And then they finally make it to the tunnel. I actually thought that was kind of cool when he's like, do you know where the tunnel is? And then he goes right into the wall and goes through it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're going through the tunnel. And I knew those little tanks were going to come back earlier because they focused on it.
Does this little in the movie happen that we're already at the very, very end?
Yeah.
We've been potting for 40 minutes. It's not covered a lot of ground.
But yeah, so we kind of went from early on to this pretty quickly, but
it's not a complaint, Pappy, at all. On you.
I like when they capture Braga and he does the classic. He like turns to Dom and he's like, "You and me, we're not so different."
Yeah.
I
thought he was going to bribe him. I thought he was going to try to bribe him, but
we're very different.
I have a family.
There seems to be some kind of religious overtone to this movie. Stevie, did you pick up that on all? Like,
you think?
Well, like Braga goes down in a church. There's shots of crosses or crucifixes constantly. We talked about Vin Diesel's very Christ-like. Does that add anything to the movie for you, Stevie? How do you read that intentional bit of color it's added?
I don't read into it a whole lot, man. This is a movie about fast cars and bad dialogue.
It definitely is, but it's intentional, right? Like Braga goes down in a church for a reason. They could have picked any place for him to go down, and they picked a church.
I don't know. I mean, how can you have the Christ-like character kill somebody in your own home?
Mikey, what you got?
This franchise is primarily made for Hispanics who are into cars. I'm just going to put that out there. But there's a lot of Hispanic culture
for the audience
in these
at home,
movies.
Is brown, and we've had a lot of hate on the Facebook lately. Mikey is brown, so you can say that. Go ahead, Mikey. Continue.
The whole movie is soundtracked by Pitbull. This whole franchise is like soundtracked by Pitbull. It's aims primarily towards a Hispanic audience, I feel like, that are into cars. And Dom is obviously of Hispanic origin, and everybody knows that Hispanics are super religious, so it's like not surprising that he's wearing a crucifix all the time. He's pretty much invincible Jesus-like character in this weird car universe, and I think that's kind of the reason why there's always so much religious stuff. He's just always contemplating, sitting in a corner, thinking about his life, all of his bad decisions that he's made, and all of that stuff.
They pray before they eat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They drink Coronas.
All of them are like Hispanic. He's got a lot of Hispanic friends.
And I have a theory too. I feel like Justin Lin knew that he was going to make more movies, and this feels like kind of the Empire Strikes Back for Dom. Like he's clearly at his lowest, because in the first movie we see him leading a prayer with the family, and as late as 8 we see him leading a prayer. But in this movie he has to be reminded by Mia to like, aren't you going to pray? And he like takes a big drink of Corolla and kind of rolls his eyes. So I think they're trying to show that he's in a low point. And very much, Mikey, like the Empire Strikes Back, Dom ends this movie in prison, but there's a beacon of hope. Could you tell us what happens at the cliffhanger in Fast and Furious and finish us out here?
Yeah, I wish they had done this whole scene and we get to see the breakout, but Dom is being taken away on a prison bus and they're in the middle of the desert. And then we get 3 souped up cars that kind of overtake we don't see them overtake the prison bus, but they just do their normal routine of one car getting in front and kind of surrounding the bus, and they're going to bust Dom out. But of course we don't see any of that.
I have a question. Like, they know his past, right? Like what they used to do and how good they were at taking over trucks. Like, shouldn't they have maybe thought that this was a possibility that cars would come up and try to get him out?
I think they knew it was going to happen. This is kind of like our way of saying, like, we tried, but we know you're going to break out anyway.
I also didn't like the judge. He was like, took into consideration what you did, but I'm going to give you the harshest sentence anyway. Like, you didn't take it into consideration then.
He gives him 25 to life.
That's crazy.
With no parole.
No, that's dumb.
Ugh.
I mean, he only murdered like one guy. Like, Jafar killed a lot more than that.
But when he killed him, he called him a pussy. And that was really the biggest offense.
You get the electric chair for that. Josh, were you filled with hope when you saw the family surrounding the prison bus?
Family.
You said it so dumb. Family.
Yeah, honestly, I was hoping Wonder Woman would be
Me too.
in the gang, and she wasn't. But
She will be.
yeah, I mean, I had nothing. There's nothing wrong with this ending. Like, they're coming to get him, and do most of the Fast Furious movies end on kind of like an adventure scene cliffhanger like this? I feel like that's kind of a thing, right?
Not always.
50-50? Like, what's the ratio here?
Hey guys, my ride's here. Gotta go.
Unchain me.
He should have said that.
They have my car.
Well, that's all I have for the Fast and the Furious. Any final thoughts? Or sorry, Fast and Furious.
Okay.
I have a question for Korey.
Okay.
What other movie franchise does this cross over with? I know there's like a rooting theory that the Fast and Furious and another big like box office, like blockbuster type franchise cross over together.
Oh, I don't know about that. It's like a fan theory?
Transformers?
I don't know. I have to look it up. If it was Transformers, it'd be exciting.
Every year a Fast and Furious movie came out, an X-Men movie came out until 2014. Because it got pushed back because of Paul Walker's death.
And it's still 2020 and they're still making these movies. I kind of thought that one of the places this movie dropped the ball was in the soundtrack. Like, coming out of Tokyo Drift, we had Fast and Furious! Bah! Bah! And we had, like, Bow Diggity Bow. Like, I don't know, like, what the... But what's the...
Hispanic rap.
But what's the headline song? You know what I mean? Like, what's the catchy song? Do you have one?
I mean, I don't know any Pitbull music, but he's
what I'm
all
saying.
over he's all over the soundtrack, so I'm sure one of those is the popular song.
Fan theory. What if Fast and Furious' Dominic Toretto is a Terminator?
Oh.
Jurassic World and Fast and Furious are going to cross over.
What?
You got me going down this rabbit hole, Stevie.
All right. Well, any other final thoughts before we get too far down? All right, let's go with yes or no. I'll go first. This is a soft no. I think I like this nearly as much as Tokyo Drift, and somehow, like, I think I retroactively in my brain like Tokyo Drift more than when I watched it. But I'm starting to see what the mass appeal for these is, and it's the fact that there's this giant ensemble cast. Like, the fact that we're like calling back to Han and 3, and we're like, oh, where's Roman Pierce, and where's all these other like characters who we've run across? Like, I know that family's a joke and it's a cliche, but I'm kind of seeing like why having so many characters in like a crossover giant franchise appeal, much like Marvel does, is really appealing to people. But it's still a really dumb fucking movie. Like, I can't. It took me so long to prepare these scant notes that I had. Like, I had to watch this movie like 2.5 times to even like get a grasp on the basic plot. And it's just not quite silly enough yet for me to be so bad. It's not so bad it's good, but it's still taking itself a little bit too seriously. So a soft no for me. But Josh, you're our next most recent host. What do you give Fast and Furious?
Listen, I came from like 11 touching films at Sundance to Fast and Furious 4, and these yes or no's that we give this binary system, as intellectual as I'd like to break it down, honestly, that it's kind of an emotional call, the yes or no. And this movie hit me in a good spot because I needed something
Nice.
meaningless and fluffy and just
What's happening?
Stuff happening. The one thing I will say though is like don't race your cars on a road, for the love of God. Please don't do that in real life.
Or use GPS.
Listen, I gave, like 3 weeks ago, I gave Slow Motion Dog a yes and Turner and Hooch. So I'll give this the softest of yeses. I had a whole other segment I didn't get into. I kind of wrote this note down, but I wanted to see what the greatest cultural reference of our time was, whether this was this Corona hangover of a movie or the coronavirus itself.
I was trying to not, yeah. Eesh.
Very timely joke.
Was that Was that the end of your yes or no? Is that how you went out?
That was a real Irish exit there. I love
when,
that.
When this is edited, we'll all be dead, so don't worry about it.
All right.
Edit that out.
Next, who's not a carrier of the coronavirus, Stevie, what did you
No, I was a carrier of bronchitis, and it was a nightmare. Let's see here. I will give this a solid yes. You kind of have to realize, like, where the Fast franchise was on a downward spiral. From, like, number 1, it got incredibly worse with 2. Still angry I even had to watch that movie. Then it got a little better with 3. Then it's like what Mikey said. 4 was like, this is like the true sequel to number 1. So I'll give this a solid yes. Just a fun, dumb movie. So yeah, that's me.
Korey.
I'm going to also give this a yes. It's not the greatest of the Fast and Furious movies, but I like it because
it gets better.
It does get better. I like it because of what it becomes, you know? These movies are like the insane action movies of our time, you know? Like this is it. The big action movies that come out that are not related to comic books or anything like that. It's pretty much just the Fast and the Furious movies as far as big budget blockbusters. And they're so ridiculous and funny. I just love them. Now, this one isn't quite there, but I still like this movie because it helps get us there, and it has its moments. I'm going to give it a yes.
That might be the first yes in Spoiler's history for a movie that helps other movies come out. But, Brett, what do you give Fast and Furious? We're heading towards a pretty positive overall rating.
Yeah, so I never ever wanted to watch these movies. It did not appeal to me. I thought every time it came out, I was like, oh God, another one. And when Josh picked the first, I think it was Josh picked the first one last year, I liked it so much more than I remembered liking it. And then I watched Tokyo Drift, and yeah, I gave it a yes, but that was pretty bad. And then I messaged in our thread about 2/3 of this movie that I was devastated because I like this movie. I couldn't freaking believe it. I told my wife, and she started cracking up. She's like, "You like this?" I was like, "It's not any good. The acting's terrible, but it's so fun." I don't know. I hate myself for liking this, and now I can't wait to watch the 5th one. I'm gonna wait until we spoil it.
Brett, I freaking love you, and this might be your best moment in the pod. That's so well said.
Let's highlight.
I love you.
I just couldn't help it.
Welcome to the family, bro.
But like, and it's also like Stevie the same way. I feel like Stevie went on an absolute rant when we did Fast, the first one, and then he's all about Tokyo Drift, and now he watches this one, and we're both just kind of like on board now.
It's growing into. I'm growing into it. I don't know what's going on. I
get it.
I used to be like Brett. Like I would roll my eyes so hard and be like, "Fast 7, Fate of the 8," and it's like, God. But making these things now, I'm like, I kind of get it.
I've said this for a while.
I kind of get why they're making
that,
like 20 of these things.
The people that hate them the most are the people that haven't seen them. I found that to be true in my life.
Yeah. And Pappy. But yeah, it's I would say it's slightly below a solid yes, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
For a long time, there were only 4 hosts on this podcast, and there were 5 for a little bit. Now we're up to 6, but there's only been maybe 5, 6 movies ever in the history of Spoilers that have gotten 5 yeses from us. Mikey, are you going to make Fast and Furious one of those movies?
See, this is where it gets tricky, because like Korey said, I view this as a transition movie, and I also consider it the second in the real continuation of the original Fast and Furious franchise. I like 1, it's super cheesy. I hate 2 and 3. I think those both kind of suck. But 4 is like the continuation before we get to 5, which is when things really start popping off and physics doesn't exist anymore, and it gets real fun. But like Korey said, this is also a transition movie. This is like this is the most subdued of like 1 and then 4 through the rest of them. So it's like, in my eyes, the most boring one.
Yeah.
But I forgot it introduced Gal Gadot, so that's always cool. So it's cool it's cool that she's now in the franchise, so that's a plus. And the runtime isn't really that long. I just happened to fall asleep like 3 times watching it, so I had to rewind it multiple times. But I I just think this one is like the plot is so boring and bad. I really don't care about the plot at all. But in terms of it, like how it looks,
so many butts.
Yeah. But in terms of like how it looks, I think it like now it's like starting to look like a real movie franchise. It doesn't look half-assed like the first 3 movies. They look like the CGI is like really good now and stuff. So I don't know. I'd give this one a soft yes because now it's like the kicking incredible. Like, this is gonna be like absolutely batshit insane franchise now. It's like there's no rules anymore now. So I go with a soft yes.
Pat, do you want to change your choice?
No. Absolutely. I've never wanted to change my choice less, knowing that the 5 of you gave it a yes. This doesn't deserve to be a 6 yes movie.
Dude,
like,
if it was preserved, it could be a nice cold Corona.
Yeah.
Dude, Corona.
Just switch, Pap. You know the right thing to do.
I'll say no. I will not fucking switch.
Letterboxd has turned you into a monster.
Do a Japanese accent.
For old time's sake.
Almost did, but I will say that I feel very strongly that I know that regardless of who wins this trivia, I know what the next movie's gonna be.
Yeah.
But if this is your first episode of Spoilers, the way this goes down is that, like I said, I won the hosting privileges from Josh. From what was your trivia, Josh? I forget what. Oh, it was something like increasing your IQ.
Highest IQ.
Yeah, ways to increase your IQ. The guy with the highest IQ won. This one is gonna be. A game for the people, you guys. This is going to be an inverse of a game we play a lot, Closest To. This is Farthest From, but we're just it's Closest To. It's 4 rounds of Closest To. I'm going to eliminate the Farthest From guy each time until there's one champion. The order is, like I mentioned, like we've been doing all episode, Josh, Forrest Gump, Stevie, Predestination, Korey, who's yet to host, Brett, Turner and Hooch, and Mikey, First Blood. But Mikey, do you want to make any changes to this order? I'll give you that as the guy on the schneid.
Is it just Closest To, no going over, or is that...
no Price is Right, just straight up Closest To.
Mikey, could you do me solid and move me back in the order a little bit?
Being back in the order is a big advantage.
I would make you some extra wings next time we record together, something like that.
Those battery acid wings?
I'm fine with
whatever flavor you want.
Me having the most advantage.
Okay. So we'll keep it the default order. I would like to keep these guesses fast and furious since we have to get through 4 of these. So just kind of go off your first. Give you a good 4-second clock. I'm going to have to ask for an answer. All right. Josh, Stevie, Korey, Brett, Mikey, your first Farthest From. Let me pull up the sheet. What is the population of the Dominican Republic where this movie kicks off? Josh.
44 million.
Really?
Stevie.
Oh, shit. I was going to say 15 million.
Korey?
People.
12 million.
Brett?
14 million.
And Mikey, you can guess anything between 12 and 15 and be guaranteed to the next round. Million.
30.
What? Oh, shit.
30 million?
Mikey.
Love the bold play. It won't matter that the population of the Dominican Republic is 10,300,000. So, Josh, you have been eliminated, unfortunately.
Very unfortunate.
Okay, let me black out your name from this next round. Okay.
Thanks.
Stevie, Korey, Brett, Mikey. What is the length of the U.S.-Mexican border in miles?
Oof.
Stevie.
1,100.
Korey.
4,000.
Brett.
1,200.
And Mikey, you can guess anything between 1,100 and 4,000.
2,000.
2,000, and Mikey gets the natural closest, only 46 miles off. It is 1,954 miles. Incredible guess.
Speaking of length, Eric Clapton's pretty short. He's only 5'10".
Ooh,
Korey,
racist.
That's above average.
Wow,
unfortunately,
his reach isn't very long for beating up his wife there, right?
Oh, jeez.
you are 2,000 miles off, so you've been eliminated.
Okay.
So Josh is out and Korey is out. So the order for this one is Stevie, Brett, then Mikey. How many people does the Federal Bureau of Investigation employ?
Oh, jeez.
Is it me?
Yep.
52,000.
52,000. Brett?
51,999, Alex. I mean,
That
Bob.
is so incredibly dirty. 51,999.
You really should outlaw that.
Okay, Mikey. 52,000 and 51,999 have been guessed.
25,000.
And once again, Mikey is the natural closest. 35,000. Mikey only off
Nice.
by 10,000 there. Stevie, you've been eliminated by one employee of the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Classic Brett.
It's down to Brett and it's down to Mikey, the guys who are at the bottom of the schneid. There have been 9 Fast and Furious films. What is the average Rotten Tomatoes percentage of those 9 films? Brett?
Critics review?
Yes.
Ooh.
Critics review. Scared me there for a second, but I knew that answer.
What happened to 4 seconds?
52.
Mikey, do you want over 52 or under 52?
Brett, that seems extremely generous. I'll go 35.
It's definitely over.
What?
The Fast and the
really?
Furious has a Rotten Tomatoes percentage of 53. Too
Wow.
Fast, Too Furious has a percentage of 36. Tokyo Drift, 38. Fast and Furious, the movie you guys just gave 5 yeses to, is the lowest of the franchise at 29%. Fast 5, 77%. Fast 6, 70%.
Ooh, I
Fast
needed
7,
those.
81%.
Oh, yeah.
Fast 8, 67%. And Hobbs and Shaw, 67%, bringing the average to 57.56%. Ladies and gentlemen, Brett is your next host of spoilers.
Whew. But
Wow.
I'm not going to pick Fast 5. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Congrats, brother.
The Fellowship.
Yeah, Mikey, you've had some dramatic trivia lately.
The thing of it is Mikey was the closest to twice and didn't. Well, Brett, we'll give you a second to think since you're not picking Fast 5. Spoiler Man, take us away.
Spoiler Man here. Our email is podcastspoilers@gmail.com. Twitter is @spoilers_pod. Our Instagram is Podcast Spoilers. It's lit. Josh Hensley from the Rutabaga wrote our theme song. Our spoilers hotline is 903-776-4507. That's 903-SPOIL07. Please support this podcast by leaving us an iTunes review.
And we're back. Brett, you're the new champion of spoilers. What will your movie be?
All right, I've asked for a little bit of time to talk. This was actually a movie, I believe, that was recommended to me by Stevie. I think he's the only one who's seen it. It's probably the most unique, maybe the most unique movie we've done here. It's probably going to be the least listened to, so I apologize to that.
Oh, I think I know where you're going.
It's such a minimalist, it's like the most minimalist movie I've ever seen with a fantastic actor, and it's so much stress. You got a guess, Korey?
Lock.
We are going to be reviewing the movie Lock.
It's a great movie.
It is.
And it's free on Netflix.
That is a
I've seen like
fantastic
half of
choice,
it. It was
Brett.
pretty good.
Nice.
Gave me the anxieties.
Oh, dude, it's intense, but like in a weird way.
Can't wait for that. Tune in soon for Locke. And we also got some punishment episodes coming up, so be on the lookout for those. Thanks for listening. That was Fast and Furious Bar.
I don't think
Korey-
we have punishment.
Korey, have you
what?
seen Lock then?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's no Fast and Furious, but it's pretty
No,
good.
I just wanted to switch it up a little bit. It's not like the normal movie that I would pick. Crap, I hope I exported that audio of the last time.
What?
I haven't uploaded the last audio, have I?
Forrest Gump?
Yeah, but I didn't. Oh, please be on here.
Yeah, I need to start editing that tomorrow.
Oh, thank goodness, there it is.
All right, I'll put it.
Wait, yeah.
Please do.
So,
Hey, Josh. Go ahead,
sorry. This Sunday at what time did we say?
11.
11,
Okay.
9, 8.
So, Pappy, could you describe what we're doing in that episode one more time, just so I'm clear?
It's fun. It's easy. Listen to one of the episodes.
Yeah,
Just chilling out.
You can listen to the music ahead of time, but yeah, we click on the music, say 3, 2, 1, go. We all listen to it, but just talk over it, and that's a good opportunity to like bring up your favorite movies of the year or that kind of stuff. Just chill.
We do a little bit. We like do the score, and then we do the songs of the year, right?
Although it's probably got to get taken down by SoundCloud now, since there are a bunch of fucking never mind.
Narcs.
Keep fighting City Hall.
What's fascist Nazis?
Yeah, what's going on with that, Pat?
I appealed. I sent in that fucking super long message that I sent you guys, like explaining why it is fair use and why it shouldn't be taken down, and I got no reply. They got an email saying you've been assigned another strike from SoundCloud. I was like, what the fuck? So then I replied to that email. And they're like, sorry, you only have one strike, but we're not. It was just we're not like accepting your appeal. I was like, why? And they're like, well, fair use isn't in every country, and SoundCloud is an international company, so unfortunately we can't prove that you have fair use. I was like, okay, well, that's the worst non-answer I've ever heard. Thanks for taking my money for 4 years. Long story short.
You know the only thing I like about SoundCloud is like when I do the links on Facebook, I have to do SoundCloud first because it has a really cool picture of the actual episode, like the movie. But if I do it on iTunes, it just shows Cereal Bowl.
We get lots of nice comments.
Switch. Let's switch.
I mean, yeah, well, it's not even a matter of switching. It's on a couple
Can I do
places.
Is there an FF4 folder? I just made one. If not,
Forrest Gump's
I
being
don't think there
uploaded,
was.
Josh.
thank you.
I'm doing Forrest Gump real quick.
What did you say, Mikey?
I was talking about your folder. I don't think there was a folder.
I didn't see one. I just was on there.
Pappy, what do you mean that it's not a matter of changing? It's a matter of what?
I mean, I'm not. It's just a matter of losing the plays that we get on SoundCloud. That's what I'm pissed about.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. It's not a matter of like where we point to for other apps. I don't. It's just we get a lot of comments and like a lot of we've like gotten a lot of music from people on SoundCloud. Like, it's a nice platform to have. It's just shitty that they're cracking down because some big ass company is worried about losing 5 cents on a fucking Post Malone song. Okay.
There's no way they could lose money based on our pod, but
Maybe they just listen to that like 5-second clip over and over and over for 2.5 minutes, and it's basically the same thing. So we're kind of stealing from him.
That was Spoilers.